If you look back, the Clinton impeachment proceedings made it even further than the Nixon case. A few House members became household names at the time. They worked this case through the Senate, like Lindsey Graham. Another manager was Bill McCollum, who I spoke with about his work on this House committee, then in the Senate. I asked if the committee was biased from the outset, that the outcome was predetermined, and if the conditions are similar today to what they were back in the 90s. Congressman, could you tell me about your involvement with the Clinton impeachment proceedings in the House?
The House floor of the House, they had a vote and referred it to the House Judiciary Committee, which was a logical place to go. That's a place where impeachments are held routinely with respect to judges who get into trouble in the country. Henry Hyde eventually appointed me an impeachment trial manager. At the beginning, I was just a committee member like everybody else.
Do you think that politics could be tempered in some way in the House if they were to ever take up a new impeachment proceeding, given the current state of politics?
Well, based on the politics of the Clinton impeachment proceedings, I don't think so. As much as I found many of my colleagues to be impartial, I worked across the aisle a lot more than I'm told they do today. We did bills together and so on. I didn't find the impeachment of President Clinton, that whole process, to be anything but partisan.
Do you think that moving toward impeachment was a foregone conclusion, or do you think there was an honest grappling within membership to figure out, did they think this qualified as a high crime and misdemeanor?
There was a lot of honest grappling. The question of what a high crime and misdemeanor was, what the definitions were in the Constitution. We had hearings just on that alone. And then we had a detailed examination of the documents. Moderate Republicans who were not at all persuaded that this is something they wanted to do, impeach the president, went over there one by one and examined the documents. And once you did, it was very hard to say, no, there's nothing here.
There is a great interpretive responsibility handed to the House membership when they initiate these proceedings. How did each member go about deciding that in their own mind, what qualified?
Well, I can't speak for everybody, but I will say for those of us intensely involved in it and making the ultimate decisions and calls on it, and eventually being the impeachment manager who had to argue it, it was pretty clear that was precedent, a long history of precedent with other impeachments. There was precedent for saying if you committed things like lying under oath, if you've done something to obstruct justice, if you've committed murder, if you've done something really heinous, that's a high crime.
Congressman, do you see any parallels between what you worked on in the 90s with Bill Clinton and what we could potentially be seeing today shaping up in 2018 with Donald Trump?
I don't see where anybody has shown Donald Trump's committed a crime of any sort. Most of the time, historically, in presidential efforts, as in Watergate and with Bill Clinton, the problem was that somebody tried to cover something up. President did something, lied, didn't tell the truth under oath.
But if Robert Mueller finds that Donald Trump, in taking some of the actions that he did, obstructed justice, or if he has him as an unindicted co-conspirator of obstructing justice, do you think that that is enough to qualify for opening an impeachment proceeding?
I think there will be a process. I'd like to believe that members of the committees, if they do face such a thing, will do the same kind of deep scrutiny dive that we did.
There's a multiplicity of so many things out there that it'd be hard to ever nail anything down and actually get a proceeding going when there are so many facts floating around.
But if you're looking at it, it has to do with the justice system. It has to do with something the president does that is basically wrong on the record, not something Twitter, not something, just because Donald Trump tweets something that is outrageous and isn't true is not impeachable.